All right. I'm hoping at this point you've taken a little bit of time to look at the syllabus and the schedule. You see, this week we're starting off with a discussion about enhanced interrogation in the wake of 9/11. As we move through the semester, we're going to discuss a handful of different aspects of terrorism. Next week, we'll discuss bioterrorism. I'm sure the subject matter for next week will make everyone feel great in the current climate of COVID-19. Then we're going to move along and talk about the white power movement in the United States. And then we're going to spend the last 2 weeks of the term talking about the Troubles in the Irish Republican Army. Hopefully there's a diversity in the subject matter that will keep you interested as we move through the semester. And as I mentioned in the previous video, I wanted to make sure we were touching on topics that were a little bit different than the usual discussions that people have about terrorism. But I think it's probably appropriate for us to talk about the terror event of the last half century in the United States, which is 9/11. I think it's important to not disregard that event and the impact that it had on the policies in the United States over the last 2 decades. And of all of the policies in the wake of 9/11, the one that was the most controversial was the use of enhanced interrogation. I wanted to take a little bit of time at the beginning of the semester to address that particular issue, because I think it'll get us moving in the right direction as far as our analysis of some of the policies surrounding terrorism and some of the groups that are active in terror activities in our country and historically around the world. Enhanced interrogation is a term that was used to describe what others refer to as acts of torture. So the content that I have you going through this week is going to discuss that line. The movie, The Report, that you will watch that was released last year talks about the investigation that went into the enhanced interrogation techniques and the torture report that was released. The podcast that I'll have you listen to is going to be an interview with the individual that was at the head of that investigation, and that was depicted in the movie. And the clip I have you watch is just an introduction into some of the kind of moral and ethical dilemmas that stem from the use of enhanced interrogation. So I want you to go into this with as much of an open mind as you can have about a topic that is very divisive. And I want you to ask yourselves some really important questions as we engage with this material this week. What are the moral and ethical implications or ramifications of the use of enhanced interrogation or methods of torture or whatever terminology you would like to use? What are the psychological effects of using those different terms? Does hearing enhanced interrogation make you feel one thing and hearing torture make you feel another? If we label those activities different things, does it actually change the way you feel about those activities? Could it do that for the general public at large? Do you think these policies had an effect, the desired outcome that was espoused at the time that they were utilized? Were they effective? If so, why? If not, why? These are the really sticky issues that are going to surround a lot of the policies that we discuss when it comes to terrorism. Because terror groups are like a diaspora. They're very spread out. They're not connected and linked in the same way that a lot of other organized criminal units might be. And so any attempt to kind of confront those groups from a political side is going to be very complicated and it's going to be fraught with a lot of difficult decisions. And I think this discussion about enhanced interrogation or torture really gets us jumping off in that direction. On the criminological side, again, start looking at things from like a rational choice perspective. Does it make sense? What's the cost and benefit to utilizing these types of policies? I think that is a good perspective to keep in mind from a criminological perspective. The idea of labeling, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, is an important idea when it comes to this particular behavior. Hopefully those are some thoughts that can kind of get your mind moving through this material, some questions that you can keep in mind as you engage with it through the week. If you have any questions or concerns about the clip, the podcast, or the movie, please let me know. I hope you enjoy going through the material as much as I did. I found it thought-provoking and really interesting. And I look forward to seeing your video presentations at the end of this week. They need to be submitted to me by Friday night. If you have any questions about the screencasting stuff, feel free to shoot me an email, but I think all of you will probably be able to figure that out pretty quickly. It's not particularly difficult if you've never had that experience before. Good luck with it, and I'll see you guys soon.